On last week's episode of Common Filth Radio, I received a message from an individual who detailed the level of depravity and debauchery that takes place among the youth that live in those sort of communities. And you could go back and listen to it. In fact, I recommend that you do, if you have not yet already. Not coincidentally, Wisconsin produced the likes of Ed Gein and Jeffrey Dahmer. If you don't know who they are, look them up, read all about it, get familiar. An individual left a comment detailing more of what really takes place in rural, working-class neighborhoods. The debauchery and soullessness is far more prevalent in these parts of America than anybody would like to admit. This comment says, "Common Filth, the email you read at about 10 minutes in resonates deeply with me. I reside in a rural locale within Arkansas, mostly white. The conduct of people my age from middle school to now university is nothing but confirmation of all that you have said. My parents moved here with I and siblings in tow to escape the conditions of Palm Beach, and now the monster has followed us. I thank God for the circumstances of my upbringing. When confronted for defeatism by a right-winger, I chuckle. I have lived in a Whitopia. My world has been a window into the alt-right's idyllic future, and it has come crazed frenzy of novelty seeking even away from the city lights. My fellow Anglo is dead and bloated. I feel more at home with my Middle Eastern and black friends from college than my fellow Ubermensch. I drink a gallon of milk a week, and I'm an Anglo. How the fuck did I end up here?" I don't know. I wonder the same thing. Think I'm any different? I come from no different stock than you and any other Euromut American. Europe is a shithole. Why do we want to emulate their behavior? We take the worst parts of their behavior and say, yeah, that's what's good. That's great. As a reminder of the behavior that we seek to emulate, I'm going to read a little bit from that email once again. The individual who sent me the email says, "It happens in slow ways, seeing the blue dyed hair septum pierced white girl sporting a choker collar walking down the street, holding hands with her girlfriend, a girlfriend whom you thought you had a future with, cheating on you before leaving to college to have a lesbian girlfriend 2 months later. A former friend of mine changing his name to Lindsay, becoming a basement reclusive furry. It's a never-ending torrent of absolute lunacy. And it's even more appalling to witness this behavior conducted at my age level. The parties, booze, cheap weed, all being passed around and distributed amongst the youth at these parties, and the parents wonder why there's at least a girl a year who gets gang raped there. The ones that don't lose their virginity by the time they're 16, control their urges by becoming potheads or sex addicts. I was talking to a friend of mine who had told me that 80% of the people in our league have had group sex, a forensics league, have had group sex and have swapped significant others that are in relationships before. They all have meetups all at their houses to play video games, get drunk, and fuck one another. They've sworn to secrecy not to tell anyone this, and the only reason why my friend figured this out is from his younger brother, who's also in the league, getting invited to one of these events. Thank God he told on them. It's within these rural neighborhoods and fringe communities that I find often the worst kinds of people, who, unbeknownst to the teachers and communities in the city and town sense, are seen in a good light only because they selectively show what they want their superiors, be they teachers, parents, or others, to see. That's a huge problem with the white psyche, keeping up appearances, lying for the sake of keeping up appearances. It's all a lie. You know, in the American Midwest, where Wisconsin is located, that's where you find most Scandinavian-descended Americans. And we're going to get into that a little bit more in just a bit. So, rural Wisconsin, rural Arkansas, as this individual here so kindly shared with us, saying that this kind of behavior takes place there as well. And I've come to a conclusion. I've come to this conclusion that rural people, hicks, are just as bad as the urbanite. Debauchery is the height of life for them. There's nothing better in life. There's nothing more important to pursue. And we can thank the shit-stained genetics forged in the continent from which we are mostly descended, and that is Europe. Europeans are children. They are perverted and they hate the idea that they are responsible for their actions. They hate the idea that, not just the idea, the reality that their actions have consequences, and, you keep passing it off, but eventually it's going to come back around to you. Whatever sin, whatever wrongdoing, whatever evil you're putting out there, it's going to come back to you. And the longer you delay it, the more it amplifies when it finally does come back to you. The point is this. This is what you ultimately need to understand. Proletariat values are precisely the same as bourgeoisie values. There exists absolutely no difference between the two groups. One has, the other doesn't, but wants it. The other has money that they can use to, better pursue their dubious passions. The other doesn't and wants it. For all this talk recently about the Podesta emails and how there's alleged pederast code in there about pizzas and hot dogs and what have you, and how there's apparently a map of sex dungeons, places with sex dungeons in the power centers of America. All of this is heinous, and I'm not surprised that it happens. Horrible, there's no excuse for it. However, we're using this as an example of how bad the left is. Again, all the stupid white people I see retweeting these queers who hold up Gadsden flags that are in rainbow colors, saying like, I'm a gay for Trump, and all the stupid white people, they're so happy to retweet it because there's no greater homophile than the white man. There's no greater homophile than white people. You run into a homosexual, coin flips, chance they're butt fucking a kid. And this is what the right embraces. This is what the left embraces, as seen in the Podesta emails. So there's got to be a common denominator here. If you see no difference in attitude on this subject, whether you're on the left or right side of the political spectrum, you're going to find the same attitude towards this nonsense. So there has to be a different common denominator. And that common denominator is descended from a culture that hosts the only nation that put sodomitic marriage into law via popular vote. The bastard child of Europe, America, much like Europe itself, doesn't actually care if people are raping kids. They don't care if some creepy uncle is raping your kid. They don't. They just don't want their political enemies to do it. They're fine when it's their side doing it. They're 100% fine with it. A number of episodes back, I read a story from just some Facebook group that I lurk. Guys from Iceland saying that this child molester is roaming the streets. He got barely any time in prison, if at all. And yeah, he raped like a bunch of different kids. And they claim they rehabilitated him for, to keep up appearances, because that's, again, what Europeans do. Even if it means lying through their teeth. The most base line of loyalty, the most basic kind of loyalty you can have is the one to your immediate nuclear family. To your wife, you're not going to screw around on her. She's not going to screw around on you. And the loyalty to your kids means, well, you're not going to put them in harm's way. And we fail both tests. You want proof? These are the most adulterous countries in the world from Indy100.com. This is fresh off the wire 10 hours ago. Posted 10 hours ago. Again, Indy100.com. This Week Infidelity website Illicit Encounters claims that Friday, 18th of November is the day of 2016 your partner is most likely to cheat on you. And now we have the where. According to data from Durex, these are the most 10 adulterous countries in the world. Number 1 is Thailand with 51%. Guess what 2 through 10 are? Guess which continent they hail from. And this is measuring the percentage of adults who have admitted having an affair. So Thailand's number 1, 51%. Denmark, 46%. Italy, 45%. Germany, 45%. France, 43%. Norway, 41%. Belgium, 40%. 39% for Spain. 36% for the United Kingdom. 36% for Finland. Now, two curious omissions here. Sweden and Iceland. But you want to know why they aren't measured here? Because nobody in Iceland and Sweden get married. In fact, Sweden this year approved sperm donations to single mothers. Sweden? Yes. Sweden? Yes. Sweden. The world will be better off without you. You're getting what you deserve. Thailand is interesting at 51% because, from what I understand, it's a sex tourism hotspot, and there's a lot of crusty old Brits who like to go there and get some ladyboy action. Again, Thailand, number one of most faithful nationalities, percentage of married adults who have admitted having an affair. 2 through 10, all Eurotrash. So that's one baseline loyalty test failed. And the other, well, we've covered that so many times on the British Isles. You have homosexual foster parents raping foster kids, and people let it happen because, well, they don't want to be homophobic. I don't have to mention Rotherham. And from what I understand now, that a lot of the sex abuse is enabled by actual British children themselves. Like, you have to sleep with them. They won't give us weed and booze anymore. As we found out pretty recently. The proletariat, just like the bourgeoisie, they think this is fine. They want this for themselves. They think it's fun and free. This is the pinnacle of freedom to them. And after all, freedom, that's the most important thing. It's the most important thing. You can't get in the way of my freedoms. They might be slaves to their vices, but somehow they're still free. All the way back on episode 2, I read the gay rights platform, the original gay rights charter, which is the foundation of the culture that white America has now attached itself to, now identifies with in full. One of the goals of the gay rights movement is the abolition of all age of consent laws. And given that our culture values the homosexual above all else and their rights, it's easy to see where our culture is going. What else could you possibly expect from a people who have no use for fidelity, no use for even protecting their most vulnerable? Their most vulnerable being children. So, of course, pederast acceptance is the next frontier. Here's proof from thesun.co.uk. He says he's not a monster. One-armed, virtuous pedophile reveals he is not ashamed of being sexually attracted to children as young as 3. Todd Nickerson from Tennessee is on a mission to revolutionize society's understanding of underage attraction. Well, again, average American people. Oh, I'm all for gay rights. They should have the same rights as me. Original gay rights platform. It didn't happen that long ago. It says abolition of all age of consent laws. Here you go. Guess the race of this guy, by the way. One-armed Todd Nickerson, 43, from Tennessee, claims, and it's another hick state. Great. Claims pedophilia is better understood as a sexual orientation. He's a moderator of the online forum VerPed, short for virtuous pedophiles, and also sometimes called ethical pedophiles or gold star pedophiles. Somebody will look at this and like, at least he doesn't act on it. What is he identifying himself as? What the hell is his form called? Virtuous pedophiles. Oh, we're good. We're good ones. We're on your side. And how long until idiot white people are like, well, they help our political movement. They bring a lot of people into the fold. That's where it's going. We've seen the complete normalization of homosexuality within the last 50 years. Happened like that. Like that. The mainstreaming of pederasty, one of their goals. And you don't think we're getting there? You might be that stupid, but I'm not. The terms are used to describe those who have an attraction to prepubescent kids but control their urges and refrain from watching child pornography or seeking sexual contact with minors. Okay, so then, you're apparently, you don't do anything. Why are you still calling yourself a pedophile? You still want to do it. You're still a danger. You still need to be locked up. I'll say the verse about millstones later. All right. The Verped forum has a few thousand users according to Todd, although not all of them are active members, and the site acts as a resource to help virtuous pedophiles remain law-abiding. Todd, who is only one of only a handful of voluntarily out pedophiles in the U.S., told Barcroft TV, "I am a pedophile. I am not a monster. Yes, you are. I have the attraction, but I don't act on it. I have never, ever sexually abused a child, and I never will. I do not look at child porn. I never will yet. You're still calling yourself a pedophile. You still want to do it. You're still holding on to this label that suggests, like, yeah, you want to rape kids. And you do. What, I'm supposed to, yay, you want to rape kids, but you don't actually. Fuck you, you piece of fucking shit. You are human refuse. White trash reptilian afterbirth. White trash reptilian afterbirth says he received a huge quantity of hostile replies, as well as a large amount of positive feedback, including messages from people who had suffered at the hands of pedophiles. Fucking clueless. He said, you get the people who tell you to kill yourself and say you should be castrated and all of that kind of thing. Well, you should. They're right. What, I'm supposed to, oh, that's so terrible. Oh, somebody told a pedophile, a disgusting pedophile, to kill himself. I feel so sad for you. Middle fingers up in the air right now. Publicly, there was a lot of backlash, but privately it's been very different. I got hundreds and hundreds of emails who were very supportive, a lot of which were from people who were survivors of abuse. I did a segment for a reading from some subreddit on a past episode of Common Filth Radio about two sodomite cousins who are saying, like, oh, we've been in a relationship for 5 years. We started when we were 13 and 15. That's what they said. And all the idiot Redditors, all the stupid white people who use Reddit were like, oh, it's fine. You know, the only immoral thing about incest is you have a kid from it. That's what they think. They think that two family members using each other as receptacles for their jizz, that's a functional, moral thing. And you have at least hundreds and hundreds, and growing, who send this particular individual letters of support. Oh, wow, I wish all pedophiles were like you. That's what they said. So that's a recent article published yesterday, as of this recording, 17th of November, 2016. And then we have one that's a little bit older from January of 2016 from Vice, the headline. Subject of the article, realizing you're a pedophile can make you want to kill yourself. He says, sexually abusing kids is about the worst thing you could be accused of in our society. Well, not for long. Again, a fundament of gay rights is the abolition of age of consent. And this guy has received hundreds of letters of support. This guy, this hick from Tennessee who wants to rape kids. Hundreds of letters of support for his pedophilia. So no, not anymore. Do you think it's any coincidence that homosexuality has been mainstreamed and now this is being mainstreamed? No, it's not, because they're one and the same. It's a goal of the gay rights, it's a fundament of the gay rights platform, of the whole movement, of the culture that white America has attached itself to, that Europe has attached itself to. You know, I don't go on any of the image boards or any sort of right-wing things anymore. Because, you know, I did an episode of Extra exposing how I gave it out for free a couple months back. You know, these places like Poll and others, they now enable pederasts. They enable sodomites. And you know what? I'm done with it. If I want that, I could just read the Huffington Post. At least I know what I'm getting with them. There's no room for disappointment, and disappointment's not a good feeling. So an individual by the name of Oswald Mosley 33 on Twitter sent me this screenshot, this really funny screenshot. It says, There are literally millions more things to be concerned with right now. The US is 45% shit-skin, but let's obsess over the 2% of whites who like butt sex. Go the fuck back to r/common filth. Do you really think Trump would have won without Milo, Peter Thiel, and being open to gays? Go ahead and give that Rick Santorum shit another go, try it. So wait, it's only 2%, yet he would have lost without it? Wait a minute. One of these things is not like the other. But hey, thank you for proving my point that whites are the eternal homophile. I mean, how else? You know, Trump could have not mentioned it one time. He could have gone his whole campaign without mentioning it once. But he did. He did, and white America ate that shit up. So he says that, oh, they're just 2% of the population. It's not. It's the Gallup number for whites that are homosexual is 3.2. And that number rises once you factor into the guys in denial who are like, traps aren't gay. Trannies aren't gay. They have a feminine penis. The guys who say that, that's not factoring it into that poll. But once you factor those numbers in, it'll rise to around 4%, which is about what every other race is. Again, whites are, they lie for the sake of keeping up appearances. We've established that already very early on in this episode. So he couldn't have gotten elected without the gay mafia. And you know what? Maybe that's true. I'm not disputing that, but it proves my point about whites. A number of minutes ago, I talked about Iceland and why they weren't on the list of most adulterous nations. The reason why is because, again, single motherhood. Same thing in Sweden. Nobody's getting married. Because, well, the women have penis envy, the men are spineless, and, well, other things as well. But this was brought to my attention by Mr. Awesome at Off the F Scale. He's intentionally stoking my anti-Iceland fire that I have been building up for the last couple of weeks. He brought this to my attention from IcelandMonitor.mbl.is. Gay men should be allowed to give blood from October 2015. Iceland Monitor is the publication. The Iceland Minister for Health has restated his support for regulatory changes to enable homosexual men in Iceland to give blood. And you're supposed to be the top guy for public health. You're supposed to defend it, and you do this. Fuck you. And in more eternal homophile news from mysinshoe.com. Iceland breaks taboo with world's largest penis museum. White people say they're not gay and then do shit like this. Size doesn't matter at the Icelandic Phallological Museum, home to the world's largest collection of penises, which has an eye-watering array of specimens carefully collected from hundreds of different animals. But wait, there's more from grapevine.is. Man wants to cut off his own penis and donate it to Penis Museum. Again, the same penis museum we just talked about in Iceland. An American man says he already found a doctor willing to remove his penis. From there, he hopes to donate his former member to Iceland's Phallological Museum. Nudeman reports that American Tom Mitchell has long dreamed of being able to visit his own penis in the museum, as he was featured in the 2012 documentary The Final Member, wherein he was competing with Icelander Paul Eriksson to be the first human donor to the museum, a competition which Paul won in 2011, of course. Oh, they're so far ahead of us, so more advanced in Europe that they'll cut off penises for no reason right away without questions. Hey, it's covered by the taxpayer? With our single-payer health care system? Wow. We should emulate our society after theirs, where men walk around without dicks. I mean, after all, why do it yourself? We could import the Somalians to do the jobs that European men don't want to do. Europe shall be Eurabia, inshallah. Undeterred, Tom kicked things up a notch by disclosing that he has found an Italian doctor willing to remove his penis, which he has named Elmo. I don't know whether Tom Mitchell is his real name, but he's been in contact with us several times. The museum curator, some retarded name I don't know how to pronounce, told reporters. He has found an Italian doctor ready to perform the operation. We would be happy to receive his penis. You know, it's not enough that there's just one of these guys. Oh, I want to give you my penis. Look, my penis is in the museum. You find not one, but two. And that's like two too many. You know, when I always say where there's one, there's many. Where there's two, well, there's more. So the curator of the museum says he has found an Italian doctor ready to perform the operation. We would be happy to receive his penis, adding that Mitchell said he thought it would be funny to be able to visit his own penis in a museum. Now, I think it's everybody's responsibility when somebody wants to do something dysfunctional on their behalf, they should say, like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. We have plenty. The curator should say, please don't do this for your own good, yet he won't. He says, we would be happy to receive his penis. The museum curator says that while there are actually dozens of people on a waiting list to donate their... Dozens? So, dozens of people on a waiting list to donate their penises. Mitchell is in a special category for being the only one willing to do this while still alive. Well, alright, so 2 people are living, whatever. The Penis Museum, located in downtown Reykjavik, exhibits some 300 different types of penis from numerous species, including the aforementioned human specimen from Paul. When or if Tom goes through with his plans remains to be seen. Well, if you're that museum's curator, you have a responsibility to tell that guy, look, don't be stupid. He had a responsibility to tell both of these guys, don't be stupid. Imagine, if you will, all of the single mothers these guys have created. Because, again, we're about to get to that story. Nobody in Iceland actually gets married. Imagine that. He creates children out of wedlock. And that's the legacy they leave behind. Even if they're dead, that's the legacy they leave behind. Oh, I'm so proud of my dad. He donated his cock to a cock museum. Some great culture there you got there, you fucking idiots. So this is from The Atlantic. Title of the article: in the land of independent mothers. This is what they're calling single motherhood now. No, we're not single, we're independent. Nothing Whitey loves more than denying and spinning the truth. And I've noticed this. It's unbelievable why I didn't see this before. It's like, since election day, all I've been seeing is, well, they're not doing this. Well, he's just waiting. It's like they're making excuses already. It's like, oh, they hate the media for telling lies, and then now they're telling lies about what they're fucking doing. They're telling lies about white people. They're saying that we don't have our heads completely up our asses, as you see here in Iceland. So I'll continue. In Iceland, some 67% of babies are born to parents who are not married. 67%. So in other words, 67% of babies are born to single mothers. And this is in the feminist utopia, this woman utopia of Iceland, that the fucking some joke Twitter account called White Lives Matter says, oh wow, look, it's the best place to be a woman is the whitest country. And this is the metric they're using. A bunch of careerist spinster lesbians raising a generation of dipshits that think that gay men should be allowed to give blood. You know, 67%. Let's compare this to the demographics in America. 42% of Hispanic children are born to single mothers. You are worse than Mexicans, who right after the quinceañera, come get it, boys, come get it. That's what it is. That's a part of their culture, and yet it's still less than what Iceland produces in terms of single motherhood. Non-Hispanic blacks, 67%. Include, I guess, the Hispanic blacks, you get 72%. Congratulations, Iceland. Congratulations. You're inconsequentially better than American blacks. Oh, man. And you say like, oh, it just needs to be 100%, then everything will be fine. Here's the proof that that's a fucking lie. So, A combination of generous social programs and a secular society have all but made nuptials obsolete, while giving rise to a unique culture of independent motherhood. Annie Ling spent 2 months photographing these mothers in the Nordic country, documenting their daily lives and struggles. A lack of social stigma and a relaxed attitude towards marriage and sexual morality makes raising a family as a single parent in Iceland more feasible, Ling said. Living in a small community means relatives are often close by and can pitch in on childcare. That doesn't mean, of course, that independent motherhood is easy. Despite being recognized as an egalitarian society and the most feminist country in the world, there are still challenges. And we know how evil egalitarianism is. We know how evil feminism is. Yet, we give it a pass because we look in the kind blue eyes that betray the madness going on behind those eyes. And it's all these old, raggedy, dried up bitches having these babies. 50 years old, and you have a baby. Jonah, or I don't give a fuck about how to pronounce these Icelandic names. She's got she lives in a small town in northern Iceland with 4 or 5 of her children. All these dried up, withered looking hags having autistic kids. No wonder why you think homosexuals giving their AIDS blood to everybody is a good idea. Oh, another one, 36 years old. 36 years old, she's a kindergarten teacher. Vital, a vital service to society. No, that's not society doing you a favor. You're independent. 36 years old, having autistic kids. What else? Whatever, they don't give many ages. These people are broken. Broken. They're a bunch of cock-obsessed cum-guzzlers. And now you know why. They're raised by cock-obsessed cum-guzzlers. And the children born to these women are also at the disadvantage because their mothers had them too late in life, so they're all autistic and gay, who want to chop off their dicks and give it to a dick museum. That's culture. Look, you're listening to this, you're like, okay, what do I do about it? It's simple. You don't emulate this behavior. Don't emulate the behavior of broken people. It's pretty simple. And now I'm looking at this Trump cup shit. People go into Starbucks and, oh, my name is Trump, right? Trump on the cup. Okay, so it's a boycott, but it's not a boycott, they tell me. Okay, so it's a protest. Oh, it's not a protest? Okay, so you're giving money to a company that hates your guts, and somehow you're getting one over on them? You showed them what's what? Get a fucking grip. God, what happened? It's like I know, like, IQ points, they don't mean that much. They're more like rationalization points rather than intelligence. What happened? It's like, I described the impending Trump presidency like a neuralizer for white America, but this is worse than I could have possibly imagined. I said it's going to be a decade of palliative care for white America. And it's like they're all on laughing gas and Adderall. That's how stupid they're being. And the few with a couple of extra IQ points to spare, they want to emulate societies like Iceland. And France wants to emulate Iceland because a month after the idiot in Iceland said, homosexual men should give blood. From New York Times, France to lift ban on gay men donating blood. Wait, hold on. What was the date of the terrorist attacks there? That was my cup. Okay, Bataclan attacks. November 13th, 2015. This story was published November 4th, 2015. It all makes sense now. Let me repeat that for you. Less than 2 weeks after France announced that they would lift the ban on gay men donating blood, the Bataclan attacks happened. The November 2015 Paris attacks happened. The Bataclan Theater Massacre, amongst other shootings, happened. It all makes perfect sense. In December of 2015, the Brussels police were under investigation for having a fucking orgy during high terror alert. 3 months later, 2016 Brussels bombings, terrorist attack. There you have it. Europe is a failed society. Any way you slice it, it's a failed society. That's what happens. The prosperity that strong men create, the prosperity creates weakness. And, well, you see what weakness gives you. It gives you invasion, gives you hedonism, complete moral apathy, gives you these crazy ideas like, yeah, we should give AIDS blood to people. That's fine. You should give this infected sodomite blood to people. That's good. That's the kind of ideas that prosperous people get. It's all cyclical. History is an inevitability. Remember the Jerry Sandusky scandal at Penn State University? He raped a bunch of kids while he was the defensive coordinator there for their football team. Well, here's something similar. It may remind you of a certain sketch on a certain television show on Adult Swim that aired not too long ago. From thesun.co.uk, once more with feeling, ex-footballer Andy Woodward bravely reveals how sick pedophile coach Barry Bennell raped him over 4 years of hell. Now this comes, and right in the side panel here, right in the related, that I'm a pedo, not a monster, the virtuous pedophile, the one-armed virtuous pedophile story. Right there. So we go from Tennessee to the British Isles. The 43-year-old has decided to waive his right to anonymity and has given a hard-hitting interview on the BBC's Victoria Derbyshire program. Footy mad Andy Woodward thought all his dreams were coming true when he was scouted by a top coach at the age of 11. Instead, it was the start of a nightmare that has lasted more than 3 decades. The youth coach, Barry Bennell, took the lad under his wing, then raped him and abused him for 4 years, the former Sheffield United defender revealed for the first time yesterday. And he has lived in torment ever since, coming close to suicide on several occasions and suffering panic attacks so bad that he had to give up his beloved sport aged just 29. Bravely waiving his right to anonymity in The Guardian, Andy said, "My life has been ruined, but how many others are there?" I'm talking about hundreds of children who Barry Bennell cherry-picked for various football teams and who now, as adults, might still be living with that awful fear. We've seen with the Jimmy Savile case how people have had the courage, yet I'd say within the football world it's even harder to speak out. Yeah, well, in Britain in general, it's hard to speak out against these homosexual predators. Yeah, the Jimmy Savile case, he was a beloved icon, and then it's found that he's a horrible child rapist, raping both boys and girls. And now for that story from 2007 where the, whatever social services there were afraid to call out these 2 homo foster parents for raping all of the boys they were looking after. It's endemic. It's endemic within their culture, and the only reason why we hear about Rotherham is because somebody else took advantage of their complete fucking apathy. Somebody else who wasn't the same color as them took advantage of their complete abdication of their duty to humanity, their duty to their family. If you can't maintain a basic loyalty to your own flesh and blood, what makes you think you can maintain a nation? Great, nationalism. You have the right to self-determination. And what are you self-determined to do? You're self-determined to enable this? Bunch of fucking perverts raping kids. See, at that point, if you don't give a fuck, what difference does it make? It makes zero. It makes zero difference whether you belong to the globalist power structure or whether you belong to the perverse power structure of your own creation. You're still the same people. You're still the same broken, fucked up, reprobate people you always were. So the guy who raped him, Bennell, was sentenced to 9 years in prison in 1998 after admitting 23 charges of sexual offenses against 6 boys aged 9 to 15. And this individual here, what's his name? Andy Woodward. He says, I'm talking about hundreds of children who Barry Pennell cherry-picked for various football teams and who now, as adults, might still be living with that awful fear. We've seen with the Jimmy Savile case how people have had the courage, yet I'd say within the football world it's even harder to speak out. Only now at the age of 43, I feel I can actually live without that secret. I want to get it out and give other people an opportunity to do the same. I want to give people strength. I survived it. I lost my career, which was a massive thing for me, but I'm still here. I came through the other side. Other people can have that strength. Stockport lad Andy was playing for his local boys team when serial pedophile Bennell, now 62, spotted him and recruited him for Crewe Alexandra's youth club. To help him get to practice more easily, Barry arranged for him to stay at his house near the Peak District on weekends and holidays. Where are the parents? This isn't setting off alarms that, oh, this strange kid that I just met, oh, you want to stay at my house, little kid? And let's keep this in mind here. This is what people fought in the Boy Scouts to enable. A bunch of queers taking little boys off into the woods for camping trips. Now, let's imagine this scenario. A man of a similar age as him, as Benny boy here, Bennell boy. Imagine a guy that age, he's the leader of a Girl Scouts troop. Yeah, let's say they're like 14. Does that not set off alarm bells? Or Anglo's like completely fucking incapable of exercising their instincts? Do they have any? The only instincts they seem to have are the ones that enable them to find good cruising spots in public restrooms, as we found out about so many months ago. So this one says, he continued, it was like a treasure trove, a child's dream, this creep's house. Yeah, if this guy has a fucking fun house, you know he's raping kids. When you walked through the door, there were 3 fruit machines. He had a pool table. There was a little monkey upstairs in a cage who would sit on your shoulder. He had 2 Pyrenean mountain dogs. He even kept a wildcat. It was my dream, remember, to be a footballer, and it was like he was dropping little sweets towards me. You can stay with me, and this is what I could do for you. I was a kid. Or he was a kid. He trusted him. Then the abuse began. Andy told Victoria Derbyshire on BBC Two yesterday. Initially, it was sexual touching, but it rapidly got worse, and then he raped me. I don't want to put a number of time on the times, but put it this way, it was for a 4-year period. And he added to The Guardian, what he'd do sometimes to show the fear factor and make sure I never told anyone was to get out some nunchucks. He was a master with them. He told me to hold out a piece of paper. I'd be physically shaking. Then he'd hit it with enough force to split in half and make a little comment. You see what I could do? You see how powerful I am? It was either threats of violence or he'd use football to manipulate control. At any point, he'd tell me, you will go, you will disappear, and that dream won't happen. So he's taking little boys' anal virginities to, you'll be a star someday. And where are the parents? Where are the parents? Non-existent. Bennell was eventually jailed for 9 years. 9 years. 9 years for raping children. Oi, bruv, that's justice. 9 years in 1998 after admitting abusing boys as young as 9 over 2 decades. It had been reported by another player, and Andy gave a witness statement. In 2015, Bennell was given a further 2-year term for another historical sex offense against a 12-year-old boy. Andy is sure there are others. Bennell was a youth coach at Crewe Alexandra in the 80s and 90s and also coached at Manchester City. He scouted for Stoke City and also had close connections to other teams in Derbyshire, Staffordshire, Cheshire, and Greater Manchester. One former player linked to Bennell was Wales manager and ex-Leeds United ace Gary Speed, who took his own life in 2011 at aged 42. Now, just reading the tea leaves here, this is an epidemic. Like, I understand that footy is a huge part of European culture. This culture in particular. And, the Anglos are known for their perversion, as we've found out over the past year. There's an epidemic of these guys raping kids who want to grow up to play footy. And they're taking advantage of the dreams of these children. And this is, just reading the tea leaves here, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an epidemic. And of course, like all social, moral, cultural epidemics, we ignore it. In 2012, Bennell admitted to the Sunday Times that Speed was one of the boys who stayed at his house. Again, a man who, he was linked to this child rapist, and he killed himself in 2011. That's Speed. He told the paper he had not abused Speed, but added that even if he had done, he would be unlikely to admit it. He then said cryptically, "There's no peace now. How can you have peace when you've killed somebody? To me, killing someone is what you've done to them, because their lives are never the same again." The lawyers for Speed's wife, Louise, subsequently put out a statement saying they had been assured he was not one of the pervert's victims. Meanwhile, the abuse of Andy had a chilling twist. When he was 14, his 16-year-old sister began an affair with Bennell and went on to marry 4 years later, so Andy's rapist became his brother-in-law. Andy said of the early days of the relationship, which ended as soon as the first allegations were made against Bennell, he would come around for Sunday dinner every weekend, sitting with my mom and dad and family, laughing and joking. I was so frightened of him, I had to suffer in silence. In spite of it all, Andy progressed at Crewe Alexandra and made his first team debut age 15. Though even then, his anguish was playing out on the pitch. He explained living with the secret is probably one of the hardest things you can ever live with. If you look at my career, you will see I was plagued with quite a few injuries. A lot of those injuries were actually mental injuries. I desperately wanted to be a footballer. It's all I lived for. There was so much anger and hurt within me. League One team Bury signed him in 1995, and while playing for them in 1995, he suffered his first panic attack on the pitch. He eventually moved to Sheffield United, then went on loan to Scunthorpe United, finally retiring in 2002. Despite being rated as a promising and reliable defender, he only made 154 league starts in 10 years. The abuse had pushed him to become what he describes as a mess, spiraling to the point where I wasn't going to be here anymore. He continued, "I parked in my garage with the pipe. I've been to woods with the rope. I've had tablets ready to go. I took it to the point where I couldn't be here anymore. People talk about it being for attention or a cry for help, but I can say categorically mine was because I didn't know how I could live. The only thing that ever stopped me was knowing the devastation it would cause others." After his football career, Andy spent 12 years in the police force, but was dismissed last week after a disciplinary tribunal for having a relationship with the adult sister of a crime victim. Now, Andy, wait. Whatever. Yeah, I bet if he had a relationship with the adult brother of a fucking crime victim, they'd be like, "Oh, that's so brave. Let's put up a rainbow flag up front." Now Andy hopes to do good with his revelations. He said, "I'm convinced there is an awful lot more to come out. This has taken an immense amount of strength and courage, but I need closure and finally have a voice, and I want to give others a belief." Well, those guys coping a lot better than others might. So good on him. But shame on this society for allowing this. And not just allowing it, letting it reach epidemic proportions. So, I just got reminded of this. A bunch of people are sending me this on Twitter here. In white girls fuck dogs news, repulsive woman 27 admits to having sex with her dog while her boyfriend filmed, also from the sun.co.uk. A young woman who had sex with her dog was encouraged by her then partner to send him footage of the repulsive acts, a court has been told. Should I take the stickers I have and just cross it out and just say whites? Whites do it. Jenna Louise Driscoll pleaded guilty in Brisbane District Court to 3 bestiality charges among other crimes. That came to light when police unearthed messages and videos of the sex acts on her phone. Her ex-boyfriend filmed her having sex with the dog on one occasion and later asked her to send footage of more acts. How many stories have I read like this over the last year? I mean, it's been a lot. They really are. It's an epidemic. It's like so many epidemics we have that we ignore because, well, we can't vote on it. We can't rally around a bunch of retarded memes. Oh, look. Oh, I have that meme too. It's like their first shared experience that anybody ever had. Like their first fucking feeling of community voting for a fucking presidential candidate. Pathetic. Most popular. She's a heroin addict. Jeremy Kyle viewers shocked by looks of escort who's been on smack for 9 years. America's Bastard Child is also all about smack too. It's like there's been a lot more heroin epidemic stories. Epidemics of all sorts. It really is. There are so many dysfunctions that we just let pass. We let it slide. There are more important things we tell ourselves, except, well, then everything becomes so out of control that then they're just like, well, what could we do about it? Could have done something about it when it was in its nascent stages, you fuck. Again, the gay rights platform, the fundament of gay culture, calls for the abolition of age of consent laws, and as a culture, yeah, we're now engaging in fucking pederast apologia. And after that, bestiality apologia. I mean, here you see the seeds being sown right now. Men encouraging their women to do it, women doing it on their own. And after that, human taxidermy, keeping them around. And after that, straight up necrophilia. I've seen 2 homosexual necrophile movies this year, by the way. Swiss Army Man and the Neon Demon. But I guess Swiss Army Man was more like latent transgender necrophilia. You'll know what I'm talking about if you watch the movie. It really describes the present, like the young crop of white men. Really describes their mindset. It describes it quite well. Once you watch that, you'll be like, oh yeah. We live vicariously. We do nothing but live vicariously through each other. That's why you have all these hicks fucking developing transsexual fetishes. Thanks, smartphone makers. Thanks, Obama, for getting the Obama phones out to these places. That's what they really needed. So this dog fucker said she was willing to do that. Crown prosecutor, her sentencing hearing was told she had sex with the animal 3 times between January and April 2014, which Miss Ballack said, who is the Crown prosecutor, seemed to be linked to the attempted arousal of her then partner. There was some evidence to indicate the animal was hiding, she said. Yeah, the animal's like, please don't, stop. The details emerged as the court heard the 27-year-old had also bitten a child in public on 2 occasions. You know, you're taking this furry thing a little too far. Just a teensy bit. It is what it is. It's indicative of yet another silent epidemic that, you know, it's just another disease or a symptom we've left untreated, so it creates its own problems. But, you know, there are other important problems, they say to me, always. There are more important things. There's no such thing as a most important thing. It's all a problem. You're either right or you're wrong. You're either having a problem or you're having a solution. Which is it? There's somebody in the comments of a Common Filth Radio episode a number of weeks back who put this beautifully. A surgeon, when they're opening up a patient to remove a tumor, you know, they might find another tumor that they didn't find before. They don't look at the smaller one and say, well, that's not exactly a problem right now. It's not that big of a problem. We'll just take it out later. No, never happens. Never happens. It's like we're so fucking stupid that we let people get to this point without saying a word. And now I'm looking up Ku Klux Klan titles and vocabulary for some reason. Reconstruction period, highest levels. In both, there were 4 levels of departments, or departments of organization above the basic level. Empire, which included the Grand Wizard, the Grand Treasurer, the Grand Scribe, the Grand Dragon assisted by 8 Hydras. Only white people could take something hilarious like racism and turn it into some nerd shit. When's the next Dungeons and Dragons meeting? I mean, the Ku Klux Klan rally. Fucking nerds. Tom Metzger, an American white supremacist, skinhead leader, and former Klansman. And I know about this guy because I was watching the Louis Theroux documentary about his, him following around the Nazis in America, and he's one of them. And very early on in the documentary, he goes to visit Tom Metzger and his family, and Tom Metzger pulls out his collection of A White Man comics to show Louis Theroux, and I was like, what's changed? What's changed? People his age are now pulling out their smartphones to show people their rare Pepe fucking collection. You're a bunch of, you're a joke. Why are liberals afraid of you? But I suspect they'll catch on soon enough. That these people are just a bunch of fucking nerds. Or FBI informants, or both. Brace yourself for this one. Get yourself a beverage. Listen. This was sent to me from a loyal follower, and I appreciate this. So everybody is just pretty big. Yeah, we're going to start now. Earlier this month, the Christian Democratic Party representative was sentenced in appeal to a fee of 5,000 euros to the plaintiff and 3,000 euros to the state and the justice system for saying last year. This is the quote from the Christian Democratic Party representative. Quote, homosexuality is an abomination, but not the person doing it. The sin is never acceptable, but the sinner is always forgiven. Unquote. Which is more than lukewarm to us, but to the world, it's like blasphemy. No, and the like is crossed off. Yeah, it is blasphemy because, well, our God is, to most of us, the God of the West is the sodomite. That's our God. The plaintiff, you guessed it, was the LGBT lobby, and on their website, they, quote, congratulate themselves for this decision and reminds everyone that homophobic, lesbophobic, biphobic, and transphobic statements are reprehensible and that no one is supposed to ignore the law, unquote. Without any transition, actually there is one since the LGBT community and the pedo community share some members. In fact, they share a lot of the same goals. Let's grab a tinfoil and see how the pedo community has infiltrated the justice system in France. No doubt this is the same in every tolerant and civilized society, or country rather. We had here and in Belgium quite a lot of pedo cases that were brought to justice, and the most famous one these past few years has been Dutroux and Outreau in the 1990s. First one was about a quote-unquote lone wolf in Belgium who kidnapped and raped little girls. Lone wolf theory is now more than discussed, seeing how many people it involved. And a second one was kids have reported watching porn then being forced to do the same things they saw to first the inhabitants of the district and then more important people, doctors, lawyers, administration people, etc. Hundreds of people are involved. Luckily for many of the involved parties, trials went their way. Instead of listening to the kids, they brought them to the bar like they were the culprits. They yelled at them, stressed them, mocked them in public. Told them, quote, that's not right to lie. You know, unquote, and many suggestions of that sort. Maybe I'll make a comment dedicated to that trial because there is enough material to fill up 30 minutes of the show to make you rage for weeks. Former victims of becoming abusers themselves. Yeah, that's very common. Suicide attempts, as we learned about just a few minutes ago. Children dying, prosecuted parties laughing at the trial with the lawyers, etc. Anyway, back on more general instances. When a person, kid or not, is subject to a trauma, there can be what's called lacunar amnesia, which is pretty much your brain switching off for safety the parts dealing with autobiographic memory. Hence the whole claims of, quote, being outside your body as a third person, unquote, which is just the fact that your brain shut down the part where it links what happened to you and you understanding that it's you that it's happening to. It's a medical condition for PTSD people, real ones, not Twitter ones, and for rape victims, real ones, not leftist ones, have. All those memories are still here, but either you don't access them or they come later. Lawyer said that since kids weren't able to name to people, weren't able to put name to people, and weren't unable to keep a proper timeline, they were fake memories, quote, fake memories, unquote. Because when you're 3 and you're getting sodomized, you clearly have the luxury of asking the perpetrator his ID, and you'll be able to recall that at the trial almost 10 years later. But experts called by the court are forced to give testimonies, but not every report is taken into account. At an instance, 4 experts were on an agreement to say that a child has been abused. The judge, instead of taking it into consideration, just dismissed the reports. Instead, they take into consideration a few theories that are not supposed to be accepted since debunked and ignored. First theory, parental alienation syndrome. Parental alienation syndrome. In 1985, Richard Gardner came up with the parental alienation syndrome, PAS. Through the regular academia and research paths, he wasn't able to make his theory accepted. Most of the psychiatric community dismissed his work. So he made his own edition company and published his research there, and thus became expert for the justice system, including the We Care nursery school abuse in Maplewood, New Jersey. We Care nursery school abuse trial on Wikipedia if you want to check that out. You can also see his presentations on YouTube. He had a few people against him, reminding people that his search was non-scientific and also, for the lack of better terms, fucked up. Let's see what's fucked up about it. Surely they are not being fair to him. Don't call me Shirley. On the benefits, this is a quote, on the benefits from an evolutionary point of view of deviant sexual behavior, paraphilia, such as pedophilia, sadism, necrophilia, zoophilia, coprophilia, clismophilia, urophilia, can be considered as useful for the survival of the species, unquote. Oh, there's more quotes, okay. Quote, such paraphilia could serve nature's goals by their potential of increasing the general sexual arousal level in society, and thereby the probability of people having sexual activities helping the survival of the species, unquote. You're fixating on these bizarre fixations, these bizarre psychosexual, these abominations. You're saying that, oh, they'll increase the sexual activity. Yeah, no shit. It's all masturbatory. Except that it's not just masturbation. It's not just sinning against yourself. It's, well, in the case of pedophilia, sadism, necrophilia, zoophilia, and so on. Well, that leaves quite a wake of destruction. And that's what that says. Sexual activity between adults and children is a universal phenomenon and exists in every culture. He goes on pointing out that Western society is excessively moralizing and punishing towards pedophiles, and the draconian punishment goes well beyond the gravity of their crimes. So, you had a guy giving his testimony, this former professional soccer player, giving his testimony, saying like he had panic attacks while he played the game that, was associated with that trauma. He could have been a great pro, but it was derailed by the mental anguish that he suffered. His life derailed. He almost killed himself because of the abuse he suffered at the hands of some fucking pederast. Oh, but that's a draconian punishment to punish the people who are responsible for that kind of damage. Everybody gets what they deserve in the end, don't they? All these nations that allow this to take root. He also says the majority, if not all, the children have the capacity of achieving orgasm from their birth. If you recall an old comment on the subreddit, it's exactly the same reasoning as Kinsey, who is a huge piece of shit. So this idiot's arguing that, oh, kids are sexual too. That's why we should rape them. That's his argument. The child also feels strong sexual urges as soon as toddlerdom. What is traumatizing for the children is the social attitude towards these activities. If you recall Brie Olson's little speech, it was the same. What's bad is not what you do or what has been done to you, it's what society thinks of it. Being raped as a toddler is not the trauma, the judging is. And our society thinks that. Our culture thinks exactly that, without any trace of irony. It would be bad if there was a trace of irony in those beliefs. No, don't get me wrong. It's terrible either way. Sincere or ironic. In the case of a father abusing his child, the treatment should be on the mother. It should consist in appeasing her anger towards the father and help her better herself sexually so she could satisfy her husband so he doesn't have to go to the daughter. And all of this is from Richard A. Gardner, American psychiatrist known for researching parental alienation syndrome, who's an advocate against, according to Wikipedia here, which this is sourced. He advocated against mandatory reporting laws for child abuse, against immunity from prosecution of individuals reporting child abuse, and for the creation of programs with federal funding designed to assist individuals claimed to be falsely accused of child abuse. Gee, wonder why. Wonder what this retard was doing in his spare time. What else? What else? After saying those things, you could think that he was a weirdo or even a dangerous man. You're probably overreacting and moral spiraling again, amigo. Oh yeah, we wouldn't want a purity spiral now, would we? Nah. I mean, if they mark their ballot in the right way, that means they're good people. We need these people. Let's see what his death tells us. He killed himself, Wikipedia says. Gardner committed suicide on May 25th, 2003, shortly after his death. His son, Andrew, said that Gardner was suffering from type 1 complex regional pain syndrome, a neurological syndrome formerly known as reflex sympathetic dystrophy. What it doesn't say is that he killed himself by self-inflicted knife wounds, around 20, to the throat after ingesting massive dose of medication. Yet again, not that far from Kinsey, who used to tie his testicles to a rope connected to a ceiling beam and jump off of a ladder. Richard A. Gardner and NAMBLA worked together, as you can see in this list of publication. Does any, Wikipedia doesn't make any mention of that. But that's just a detail at this point, I guess. In the judicial system, when a magistrate wants to give the child to his abusive parent back, he just has to say that there is a presence of PAS. From there, it's as if the testimonies, the children's reports, and the medical experts' reports were dismissed since they say it's a proof that the parent told the kid to say something that didn't happen. When they don't mention it themselves, they do it from behind, like an instance where a mother had to be tested by an association shrink, equivalent to 501c organization in the U.S. Before rendering her results of the tests, she took a picture of the test sheet and went on with her day. The shrink reported that she was indeed alienating the child. Strange enough, though, when she went to appeal and gave the same test sheet, she took a picture of it to interpret by another shrink. She went to another shrink and showed the picture of the test and asked to interpret it again. Second one said that she was perfectly fine with her kids. The first shrink went then to confront the second one on a recorded phone call for retesting the subject. The second replied that it was not a retesting but a reading of the same test that had been done the first time. The reaction of the first shrink is interesting. He threatened the second shrink, telling her that he knew some people up in intelligence agencies, which ties in with the whole Podesta emails, which the right is being selectively outraged about when they have pederasts in their own midst. You know, they're all about the gays for Trump people. Fuck off, you. God, you you people make me sick. All of you. You get one little taste of success and you become the biggest fucking liars on the planet. Get one little taste of victory, you don't care about anything anymore. All of a sudden you like the pretty lies. Because the pretty lies are now on your side. So the first shrink told the second shrink, threatened, telling her that he knew some people up in intelligence agencies. Everything was recorded, but he's still working. Still has authority, and you can see him talking to journalists. The first shrink's name is Zilberg, probably just a coincidence. Peter Freyd is a mathematician who, when not trying to solve equations, was abusing his daughter. He founded the False Memory Syndrome Foundation with other people accused of pedophilia and satanic rituals with Ralph Underwager, another shrink and pastor who funded the Victims of Child Abuse Laws. Vocal, referred to as Vocal. Wikipedia quotes, Vocal members picketed hospitals, courts, and social service departments who they characterized as staffed by Gestapo-like fanatics, quacks, and zealots who remove children solely based on rumors. In other words, two organizations to say that whomever is accused of participating in pedophilia or in satanic rituals are actually victims of a corrupt system. The level of projection there is obvious. Guess all the passengers of the Lolita Express are victims and not the girls. Same for Podesta Brothers, but I digress. Oh yeah, and Trump was a great friend of the Lolita Express guy. He even said, oh, he's a great guy. He likes his girls young. He's a great guy. Freyd used the Freud theories on seduction, in which Freud said that his work couldn't be good because he induced memories to his patients. Freyd went along with it and said that if Freud managed to induce memories, it meant that false memories must be a thing. That syndrome is not accepted either in the medical field, but that doesn't stop the judicial system to use it whenever it suits them. So psychology is a quack science, basically. It's on the level of phrenology, except phrenology, there's actually something to it. One of the experts brought by the court used that false memory syndrome theory along with saying that the court was moved by too much militancy. That same expert said that the stigma on the children were caused by too much masturbation or constipation. Also, he suggested that a child's testimony could be receivable only if the child went by himself to the police station within 24 hours of the alleged abuse. Otherwise, the risk of adults polluting the child's mind and inducing false memories is too great to take the complaint seriously. Clearly, that guy's on the children's side. Oh yeah, clearly. Those two theories go very well with the conclusion of the Hutro trials. The Hutro trials, which was, quote, children lying should not be taken seriously, unquote. There you have it, everybody. Pederasts have unfettered access to your children, and will get away with it. And we let them. I have an issue I need advice on. I just found out today in school that my classmate is sending explicit pictures of himself to a girl, maybe multiple girls, during both class time and break time. And the fact that we're both attending a Christian school, but he does this, the fact that he does this disgusts me even more. His best friend doesn't try to stop him and even encourages it, despite them both knowing this is something their authority figures, other fellow church members, their family, and most importantly, God, would strongly disapprove of. I don't know what to do. Should I confront him or let him set his own demise? He's a good person if you want to laugh or be entertained by, but I know that he's actually a real jerk and seriously immature. He doesn't take Christianity seriously, and neither does it really any of the youth in my church, honestly, except for maybe 3 or 4 of us. Despite going to a strong Baptist school, I feel like I'm stuck in depravity, and since I've known these classmates of mine for a long time, it's hard to completely reject them. Thanks for the episode. Stay safe and God bless. This is all very emblematic of what we define as friendship in the wonderful year that is the current year. Yeah, so wonderful, so great. It's not friendship. It seems like people now, young and not so young, they only keep each other around for their own personal amusement. Like you said, he's a good person if you want to laugh or be entertained by. That's it. He's a fucking clown. That's what he is. People like this don't make for good friends, so stop being his friend and let your superiors know what he's up to before it starts getting worse and he ends up raping a girl or something. That's all. You need to let somebody know that this shit is going on. Alright, to hell with him. You know, it's time to start protecting other people from his madness. I see you have an avid listener here who has been tuning in since March. Before I begin, I'd just like to say that I count myself among the many you've helped set on the right path, both spiritually and intellectually. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. Keep up the good work and God bless. Well, it wasn't me. Maybe it was God working through me, but I don't deserve the credit. But, I appreciate your kind words, just assign the credit where credit is due. You like to encourage people to share their own stories, so I'd like to tell about something from my own life. It mainly concerns my sister, who I love dearly, but I'm afraid is walking down the wrong path. It started last year when I went on a trip with my sister and her boyfriend. I won't get into details, but we were staying a week at this small hostel. There were 2 exchange students, both girls staying at the same hostel as us. I was interested in one of them, and we struck up a conversation. She was nice, talking about it with my sister and her boyfriend later. She let slip something like, "I'm only helping my brother get laid," and her boyfriend seemed to agree. I was taken aback by this, being both shocked and disappointed in her. The prospect of sex hadn't entered my mind at all, and it's not something I would want to be doing before I get married anyway. Well, in a hostel, too. It's like, come on now. I know that's the least of the worries, but yeah. Though I understand this isn't the way most people think, I'd still assume that most people would want to get to know a person before they start thinking about sex. That same night, we somehow ended up discussing single motherhood, and she ran to its defense with the typical nonsense arguments like, one good parent is better than 2 bad ones. And okay, one good parent. What the hell? Okay, there's no such thing as just one good parent. If there's just one of them, that's a bad parent. She laid down with somebody they didn't intend on spending their life with, somebody they never intended on working it out with, so they aren't good. By no measure are they good. You know the deal. Yeah, I know the deal. Then it evolved into a discussion about sluts, and predictably she represented the normal orthodoxy of, you shouldn't shame people for their sexual choices, etc. Still thinking about what she'd said before, I remembered another incident she'd told me about she'd rejected a guy she met at a nightclub. She'd done so because it turned out he already had a girlfriend. What she implied was that if that hadn't been the case, she would have gone home with this guy, and had a one-night stand. She's still in college. When she first enrolled, I noticed her becoming a lot more opinionated in general. She started calling herself a feminist, and one of the things she decided to study was psychology. Feel free to laugh. Oh, she's out to self-diagnose her own psychosis. Proof that upon her graduation from high school, fathers are better off sending their daughters to work at a strip club. At this point, giving her a college education, letting her pursue that, fine. If she wants to pay for it, take out loans herself to do it, fine. But don't fucking enable that shit. If you are a father, don't send your daughter off to college, because the only chance she'll have at coming out the other side a sane, normal, healthy, functional person is if she has the fear of God in her, that if she fucks up, something bad will happen to her. But, most fathers out there, you might be a father, and I'm sorry to tell you this, but I don't think you're that adept. I don't think anybody is, so don't feel bad. Don't feel bad about your shortcoming in this area. Everybody falls short. And again, if you're not raising good daughters, if you're not raising a decent, sane, what turns out to be a decent, sane woman, don't do it. Here's proof, among so many other bits of proof. I don't have to tell you the madness that is currently happening on college campuses all around America. You're better off sending your daughter to a strip club. Back to the message. She likes to talk about how great college is and how fun it is and how you meet a lot of great people. Of course, having started college myself now and listening to the show, I know what most of it is actually about. She also believes in some vague, nondescript, new age crap. Talking about it, it became clear she held some fuzzy ideas about spirituality and consciousness while staying completely clear of any organized religion. So basically, I'm religious but not spiritual. That's what the entirety of a girl's college education teaches her. I like to adopt things that make me seem high-minded, but I don't actually want to put any of it into practice. After all, you shouldn't shame people for their sexual choices. She likes things like dream catchers and Buddha statuettes and reads self-help books like The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. She looks up to women like Lena Dunham and is arguably the poster girl for a strong, modern, independent woman. It gets worse. And as she's constantly traveling the world. Yeah, Lena Dunham, there's your, again, it's like you can see this for yourself everywhere. Don't take this comment for it. It's completely representative of where young women are at in their development or lack thereof. You think somebody like Mattress Girl just comes out of nowhere? You think these blue-haired freaks, they're just poof, right there into existence? No, they're made. And our culture enables it. We're making women miserable. From nice young girls into just miserable sluts, miserable skanks. Who beg for anal, and then when they don't get it, they cry rape. So she looks up to Lena Dunham, arguably the poster girl for this modern, strong, independent woman, as she's constantly traveling the world, feeling little to no attachment to other more important things. This is relevant because another insight that has made me worry is the fact that when white women are on vacation, they become the world's biggest sluts. Well, they already are the world's biggest sluts. We already know that Nordic chicks are the biggest skanks on the planet. All right, so, the other women belonging to the European diaspora, no different. No different at all. Because no one they know is around, they feel comfortable taking on the role as a debased whore because no one from back home is there to judge them. Yeah, they'll be like, that doesn't count. I was on vacation. I don't like to think of my sister that way, but these events have made me look at her with new eyes. It gets worse. Oh, she's that way. She is that way. It gets worse, though. I visited her at college once, and in her room I found a stash of weed. I shouldn't have been surprised, though, since the year before she'd introduced me to smoking it. Traveling with her boyfriend again, we'd visit Christiania. If you don't know what that is a small autonomous region in Copenhagen. The only reason people go there is because they sell weed openly in the streets. That's some great Danish culture right there. The Danish government lets them do this, probably because it brings in tourism, and because there's too much effort to try and crack down on it. Now, my good buddy Nat, he told me that behind every Jew is a Swede. But I'm wondering, does it circle back around at some point? Does it circle back to the Danes? Who knows? So the Danish government lets them do this probably because it brings in tourism and because there's too much effort to try and crack down on it. We also know that Denmark is the second most adulterous nation on Earth. 46% of married people in Denmark have admitted to having an affair. Now, that's just admitting. Now, we know how much, Eurotrash, they like to keep up appearances. So that's the 46% saying like, oh yeah, I cheat. It's fine. It was consensual. So really, it's not cheating. Yeah, how many? Add in the people who are like, no, we consented to it, so it's not cheating. Add that number in to those who committed adultery within their marriages. Add that number, and I bet you that Denmark is number one over Thailand. See, there are things that polls don't take into consideration that we are all too familiar with that the pollsters are not. Anyway, back on track. The other occasions I smoked weed, we were when we were living at her boyfriend's house while traveling through Europe. Her boyfriend's friend was married and had a 2-year-old daughter. He was also a complete stoner with the Big Lebowski look and everything. Great. That's what we need breeding. Oh, geez. And it's like you're making migrants look preferable by comparison. He was still studying while his wife worked night shifts as a nurse. We were there for 5 days, and every one of those days he smoked at least once, at least one, often several joints, and so kindly sharing it with me because he considered me his bro, while he played with his infant daughter. Yeah, I was driving to the, I think I was driving to the grocery store, and I was driving through this neighborhood, and I saw this guy who I'm imagining looks like this. I saw a guy who's smoking a cigarette and while looking down at his toddler. I was like, you piece of shit. So this guy's smoking weed while he plays with his infant daughter. Later, I talked to his wife, and she complained about how she's always breaking her back while he gets high every day and likes the easy part of taking care of their child, namely playing with her sometimes. On your show, you often talk about recognizing the depravity you document in our personal lives, realizing that what you find on the internet is necessarily a reflection of what's going on in real life, and that it's almost never a fringe phenomenon. Actually becoming aware of this and making that connection changes your whole outlook on it, because it becomes that much harder to ignore when you can place it in the context of your own life. Yeah, a lot of people think like I just go on Tumblr blogs, but very little of the content that I get comes from there. It's like I do more of this than I do of Tumblristas. And everything I'm reading, it's come from mainstream news sources. Actually experiencing these things have not only changed my view on smoking weed, but also my sister and promiscuity in general. Before I hadn't thought of her as a sexual being, which seems natural, seeing as her siblings, correct? But after these events, the only way I can think of her when it comes to sex is in the role of a slut. Sorry to hear that, but your sister is a big fat fucking skank. The crux of the problem is I'm wondering how I can reach out to her. She still seems preoccupied with the traveling the world, living according to the you only live once maxim, and enjoying her 20s in the way that seems to be the norm among Western women today. She's 25, so she's not getting any younger, and she doesn't seem any closer to settling down now than she was 5 years ago. Yeah, and then she's going to end up 30, 32, 33, wondering what the hell she did with her life. Wow, I bet you're real glad you had all that fun. Yeah, here lies my whore of a sister. She had a lot of fun. I've been going to a lot of graveyards lately. Pause so you can make that into a sound clip. But I look at the gravestones and I realize it's always like beloved mother, wife, sister, grandmother. These things, if something is written other than their name and the date, because a lot of the gravestones are just very basic, but if there is something written on the graves, inscribed on the graves, that's usually what it says, not, oh, here lies my whore of a sister. She had a lot of fun. Wow, that's great. People are going to remember that when you're gone. Continuing, I sincerely doubt my opinion would make her change her life in any significant way, but I understand the importance of actually giving people a chance before giving up on them. In short, my question is, what do you make of the whole situation and how should I approach it? You call it what it is. You call her behavior what it is. Short-sighted, immature, and fruitless. And you know what? If she keeps doing it, well, good riddance. We need to disabuse ourselves that everybody can be fixed. Disabuse ourselves of the notion that everybody can be fixed. Some people are just destined to lose, and your sister, on her present path, seems to be one of those people. Bonus round: while playing a game on my phone, this advertisement from a government agency popped up. The text reads, HIV today isn't like yesterday. The treatment of HIV in X country today is so effective that the risk of infection is very low. Read more at URL. You truly can't escape the pause, huh? No points for guessing what country it is. Is it somewhere in the UK? Oh, it's Sweden. It's Sweden. Of course it is. I guess I get negative points now. Hey, CF, I have a follow-up to the question I wrote in last week. My question had to do with premarital sex. Your answer was a pretty specific anecdote having to do with two young people in love, slipping up, having a child, and then getting married. The thing is, my question was more pertaining to the broader problem of fornication in America. Less than 5% of marriages in America are between two people who have slept only with each other, according to a statistic I saw the other day. Of course, premarital sex would basically be a non-issue if every couple who had sex ended up getting married, but as we know, that is not the case. The problem with sex between people who are simply dating is that the cycle of dating, having sex, breaking up, and finding a new partner leads to the situation we have in America today, where everyone's got a mile-long sexual history behind them, and I mean almost everyone. Well, that's the bill of goods we're sold, and we're like, yeah, I want that. That sounds really good. Girls are like, I want to try a bunch of different guys. Got to try a lot of different guys before you find the right one. And they think trying means sucking dick. It's the same thing with men too. They think you ain't shit until you get laid, and you got to get laid a lot by a bunch of different people because you got to try it out. You got to try out what's compatible, bro. As if the biology part isn't already taken care of. Like it's a mystery as to what's down there and how it functions. You know what? Never mind. You have a generation of hicks who have transsexual fetishes and they're like, oh, does she have a penis or a vagina? And they hope that she has a feminine penis. So yeah, I guess in a sick roundabout way, yeah, they do need to see if they're compatible. I don't understand why I was born in this time. Maybe in any other time I wouldn't have come to the same conclusions that I have now. Maybe I wouldn't have found God. if I lived during a time where I thought highly of my fellow man. I don't know, maybe that's why I was put here at this place in time. But yeah, on the other side of things, from the male perspective, you know, the men are sold this bill of goods saying like, oh, you're not shit until you gotten laid, as if getting laid will, you know, give you greater riches. It'll help you build up a company. No, it won't. It won't make you any more skilled. It won't take you from point A to point B. It won't make you a decent person. In fact, it'll do the opposite. It won't allow you to build anything that would you know, show to a woman like, yeah, I'm a worthy person. I'm worthy of your commitment. And that's a very valuable thing, a woman's commitment. You know, being non-committal, having strings of non-committal relationships like a fucking giant rap sheet isn't going to make you more appealing to a woman. A decent one anyway, that you'd actually want to build a life with. You know, it's sad, you know. The other thing brought up mobile advertisements, and I see those. I play games on my smartphone, but yeah, it's like you play the games and there's a video break, and you see these, you know, decent-looking girls, but they're selling their souls to be mobile game models. They're not using, you know, whatever beauty or youth they have to build a life with somebody worthy building a life with. No, they use it on frivolous consumer crap. And that's what we do with women in society. We see one that looks good and we're like, yeah, let's use that up and make it useless to everybody else. For what? Selling mobile games. The problem with sex between people who are simply dating is its cycle of dating. Okay, I already read that part. As a 19-year-old, I'm one of less than 15% of Americans who graduated high school a virgin at age 23. When most people have finished college, it falls below 10%. Contrast this with the average age of marriage in America, 28, and this paints a grim picture for a young man like me looking to find a decent woman to marry. Yep. I'm not going to argue with that. For many people, high school and especially college are an orgy of hookups, relationships, and one-night stands. And even those who don't partake in sex with strangers still have a string of boyfriends/girlfriends who they've slept with. Frankly, I want nothing to do with someone who's lived that lifestyle, especially when that somebody is the potential mother of my children and my supposed partner for life. Absolutely. Absolutely. I see dating only as a way to scope out a potential wife and mother, not as an end in itself, as so many people seem to. You're in an extreme minority. And the women who are of this mindset as well are also in an extreme minority. You're right, the statistics say it. This is the main reason that I think abstinence is so important. If you don't know if you're in love with somebody you only met a few months ago. I want to find a girl who's kept herself godly and pure for marriage, but I think it'd be like looking for a needle in a haystack at this point. This thought has been extremely depressing to me lately, and I can't even bear to look at most girls anymore. So to wrap it up, my main questions are, do you think that virginity is important for one to consider for marriage, and what is your stance on premarital sex? Well, I'll tell you this. A state marriage is worthless. You're on the same level as homos, and in some churches, you are also on the same level as them, which is to say that you are less than them, because they're dragging you down to their level, which is just layers and layers and layers beneath, and they're bringing you down there with them. So state marriage, well, fuck that. Get married in the right church. One that actually recognizes marriage for what it is. So when I'm thinking of premarital sex, because it's basically the government's jurisdiction now. It's not the church's jurisdiction. They gave that away. They're like, I don't feel like doing it. You take care of it. And she's like, okay. That'll make taxation easier, or whatever the reasoning was. So in the eyes of the state, yeah, I mean, you should never have marital sex in the eyes of the state, but in the church. Well, then you should be a little bit more careful about it. LOCF, just a little story with a thought. When I was younger, I was a counselor for a youth group at my local church, despite being Le Edgy Fedora Man. I wasn't there to try to dissuade anyone of their beliefs at the time, and I think that the community they offered me was a small part of what brought me back to God, but that's another story. The aim of the youth group was to provide a little bit of structure to the lives of the children of the surrounding low-income neighborhoods of my parish. Because of the economic bracket, many of the children were used lightly, as they were aged 10 to 17, were either born abroad or to immigrant parents. A few years ago, we brought the kids we had out to a camp for a few days. The majority of them were Sudanese, all seeming to be a part of an extended family. 3 of them were 17 years old that year. And one went on to athletics and now works at a fitness center. The second went to trade school and is now a journeyman electrician. These 2 were deeply religious as teenagers. The third, however, seemed engrossed by the hip-hop culture and its related materialism. I'll refer to him as A. A was big. A was violent. He would harass his cousins and the kids who weren't related to him. Unlike the first 2 of the older Sudanese, his parents seemed more or less absent. We, of course, weren't allowed to discipline him physically, as per Canadian laws, you see. But there was plenty we could do. Well, I don't think many countries would allow you to discipline him physically. In fact, I think that would be a very foolish thing to do because he'd probably fight back. It was a long process, and I'll spare you the details, but we managed to bring A more into cooperation with us and the other kids at camp. By the end, he was helping me in the kitchen and the other counselors with whatever he could do. Well, there's a difference between wild and evil, and well, I think you could figure out which camp he belongs to there. It went from the other kids being terrified of the guy to them actively seeking him out to play with them. Myself and the other counselors were very impressed with this progress. Unfortunately, as the group meetings ended shortly thereafter, so did his progress. Well, now he's fallen back into the wild side. Or maybe he's broaching closer to the evil side, who knows. He fell in with the people he knew beforehand. He got into gang activity. A year later, I heard he was in prison. I heard of arrest warrants. A week ago tomorrow, he was shot dead. Well, that's unfortunate to hear. I had not seen him since the camp many years ago, but it saddens me greatly that someone with the capacity to be as kind as he was had surrounded himself with people and ideas that would destroy him. What I've thought about after the whole thing is that there are a great many people who truly need help. Poison may come from all places in society, and many people may be inherently corrupt, just as apparently you and many of your audience and contributors seem inherently averse to corruption. I believe that there is a third group of people who sit in between and look subconsciously for anything that may resemble truth, and all they need is a hand to pull them towards the light. Thank you, and God bless. There are people who just need constant supervision. You're right about that. They need a constant reminder, like, hey, keep on the path. There aren't people that you can give the teachings and they'll be fine. They'll be fine on their own. There are people out there who you can give these moral lessons to. You can give them a framework in which to live their life, a framework in which to model their behavior. You can give them that, set them off. They'll be fine on their own, more or less. But people like this, they do need structure. They need structure more than anybody else. And I think that's a structure that society lacks for people that are wild like this. You're right. He doesn't seem to be evil. It's a shame that it ended for him the way it did. Because you're right. You did see something in that individual that, there was something in him that, it could have done some good things about. In the end, it wasn't meant to be. But that is an important lesson to learn. There are reprobates. There are people who will be fine. There are people who are righteous, who will do the right things for the right reasons. But there are people. There are people who need that guidance. Who need that structure that we lack at every institution. At every level of society, we lack that structure to contain and funnel this wild energy that a lot of these young men have into something productive. It used to be the military. Now the military's worse than the DMV. We aren't going to get it there. So where do we get it from? Where do we find that structure that we can funnel the wild among us into and mold them into something that allow themselves to work within the structure to better themselves into something that isn't completely destructive? I don't know. Hey, best in the world. How are you today? Well, I've been worse. I'm the British listener from a few episodes ago who came to you with the story of the dead sister, shitty surroundings, and foreign girlfriend. I doubt you pay too much attention to each individual commenter. I'm guessing you may have a faint recollection. Yeah. This comment is slightly shorter than my previous one, I think, and it comes from something I saw at my college in the UK. That means the last 2 years of high school. I picked up this leaflet from an organization called Stonewall, and it claims to be the largest survey of British gays to date. Here are some key points. It says, half of gay men report suffering from domestic abuse in a relationship with a man or from their family, and the average for straight people, 17%. 4 in 5 gay people haven't reported domestic abuse to the police. Gotta go to jail, mate, you being a homophobic homosexual. There's a quote, Duncan, 19. Quote, I've drank until ill, unquote. Another quote, John, 40. Quote, it's difficult to find other gay men unless you go clubbing or pubbing, and so much of gay socializing involves alcohol and often drugs, unquote. Just a side note here, what is with the people in the British Isles, as you'd call them, and trying to find a mate in a place where you buy drinks? Do you have a theory about that? The best I can come up with is that they're trying to drink away the guilt. That is an excellent theory, and one that that would mirror mine. I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind immediately right now. But isn't it interesting that the sodomite can't live with himself? He's always got to surround himself with people, always got to be posting on social media, always got to be doing something. Can't enjoy his own company. Never. And it's always, and the company that keep it always revolves around, like they say, clubbing or pubbing or going door to door trying to find angels to rape. Half of gay men have taken drugs in the last year, compared to 12% in straight men. Gay men are 8 times more likely to have taken ketamine, mephedrone in the past year. In the past year, 3% of all gay men in the UK have attempted suicide. I think it's more than that. Quote, I've tried to hang myself. I've also swallowed cleaning fluid, unquote, Gary 25. Yeah, you're using your body in a dysfunctional way. It's affecting your brain. It's affecting your heart. And you're like, you're living a life of death. You're living a life that is representative of the death of the human species, of any tribe that it infects. And we're surprised that these people want to kill themselves. Oh, let me guess. It's because they want to kill themselves because society doesn't accept them. Their parents don't love them. Let me tell you something. I've known a lot of people with bad relationships with their parents. Now, whatever problems they may have, they never had problems to this extent. And it goes beyond just suicide for the sodomite. It goes far beyond suicide. Their problems. Lots of people out there aren't accepted by their parents. They don't have good relationships with their families. Society doesn't like them very much, but you know what? They find a way. They don't try swallowing cleaning fluid. I found this one funny in its depravity. I think you might too. Quote, there's a lot of homophobia in my family. I was around 16 and I knew I was gay. When my father was drunk, he told me that if I ever came out, he would pretend to respect me, yet would be always laughing at me behind my back. It was comments like those that made me so disgusted with who I was. No, you made you disgusted with who you was, because if you were living in a truthful, honest, decent manner, who cares what other people think? The truth would be good enough on its own. The truth would provide its own fulfillment, but no. You knew that you were dysfunctional and your father refused to take part in it. He refused to affirm it. You're mad because he's not lying to himself like you're lying to yourself. He's not engaging in the pretty lie. He's not contributing to it. He's not enabling it. Oh, right. More of this comment here. Not yours, but the quote. He says, it was comments like those that made me so disgusted with who I was that I was suicidal for a lot of my youth, and I suffered mental issues that are only now starting to be resolved as I grow older and more proud of who I am. In other words, society is enabling your dysfunction more and more, and you're so happy, but the effect of that will wear off just like all the drugs you take. So you need to take more and more and more, and you need to do more extreme things, and well, there you have it. So Kevin, 20, oh wow, you figured it all out at age 20. Fucking retard. He's proud that he's a disappointment because cummies mean more than family, more than respecting the one you have or starting a new one. These people have their priorities backwards. Obvious. 10% of gay men aged 16 to 19 attempted suicide last year. 20% self-harm. 21 report dietary issues reported to them by other people such as doctors, dietitians, etc. And they also have a whole host of other mental illnesses that, there are other mental illnesses that the psychiatric powers that be considered independent from homosexuality, when homosexuality used to be considered a mental illness in and of itself. So yeah, all of them are mentally ill, and it's not surprising that they have other ancillary mental illnesses stemming from the one that defines their life. There's more, but I don't want to bore you, and if you were interested, I decided to stick with my girlfriend despite your advice. I truly love her and I trust her. She's loyal and has adopted my beliefs as her own in a very good fashion. She's not vain or proud. She's a good woman. I hope she stays that way. I'll finish up with a short story / theory, then a question. For the people interested, my story was on episode 110, Yelling at Cadavers. Great episode, by the way. I agree. Thank you for agreeing with me. There's a short update. I was sitting next to one of these dirty-looking faggots in one of my classes, and oi, bruv, you got to go to jail. That's homophobic. And a day later, came down with a cold, which spread across my family. It was bad, and even caused some slight anal bleeding. Wait, what? What? Really? Come on now. I had loads of time to reflect on what had happened, and I came to the conclusion that these gay people are hot pots for a disease. They pass and exchange bodily fluids all the time and just stir up these horrible illnesses. It's chemical warfare. The illness in their brains leaks from their noses. Their postulated spots are their immune systems trying to drive out all of the vile filth they consume. They're balloons of filth, and they're a danger to our society, both morally and physically. Thank you for reading this far. My question simply is this. CF, do you love us? You've described love as trying to put someone on the right path. And your tough love towards me earlier made me think. I just wanted to say that I love you, Commando Filtho. I might not know you intimately, but you've encouraged me to read the Bible and make myself a better person. You do a great service for the world, and I think you're a genuinely lovable person. Sorry if that came off as sappy or gay, but I think you're a great guy. Keep up the good work. God bless. I do. I really love each and every one of you, which is why I do what I do. It seems like I'm vile and nasty, and you know what? Maybe I am being vile and nasty at certain points. But you know what? It's because, I see people and I want better than they want for themselves. And you know what? That's a problem. I don't know if it's a problem, but it's always something I felt. I've always felt just exasperated at the human condition and just how easily avoidable people's problems are and how easily avoided their stupid notions are. That's it. It's like, you know what? It's like sometimes I confuse like these feelings of exasperation I have for hatred. I don't think that's what it is. Sure, I don't like these people, but I think what I feel when I encounter these tales of depravity and debauchery and what have you, when I see it, I think of all the people they're bringing down with them. They're spiraling down into this pit of despair, this hopeless life they lead through the debauched shit they do. And I'm just wondering, how many people are you damaging because of this? My heart goes out to those people. Those are the people I want to see doing right. Those are the people I want to see protecting themselves. And I don't think there are a lot of them who are even aware of it. And you know what? A lot of more people need to be aware of the true effects of what we value so much as a culture. And that is why I do what I do. There's some noise you make from time to time that's really funny and sounds very similar to the most annoying sound in the world from Dumb and Dumber. Is it your impression of the most annoying sound in the world, or does it just come to mind when white people do white people shit? Oh, you mean this one? I know people don't like it when I do that. There's another one. Somebody called it See If the Vuvuzela. Remember that one? Remember that? That one, it's a traditional South African instrument. During the 2010 World Cup. People forgot about that one. Yeah, and people are having debates about what kind of sounds I make. Do you mean the groan he makes when he reads something awful? He spelled it out. Said, I'm not sure how to spell it phonetically, but it's when he says something like, that's homophobic. Okay, I'll stop that. I understand. No, it's not my impression of the most annoying sound in the world, though. I think my sound is more annoying. No, I just, that's how their words sound to me. They sound like that, so that's the accent I take. Greetings, man of occurring sludge. I've been having very disturbing thoughts lately that I have been trying hard to get rid of, but I find hard and have stuck with me, find it hard to have stuck with me for around a week now. Previous to Trump's victory for the presidency, I never knew of Mike Pence, since I reviewed his past and political plan in regards to what he has voted for and against. I find myself oddly imagining him in Trump's place as president of the United States. What if the left actually manages to assassinate Trump? Wouldn't that be beneficial to America in a way? I would just like to hear your thoughts on this, CF. God bless. I don't know. And I think that these people threatening to assassinate Donald Trump, it's just sound and fury signifying nothing, much like his presidency will be. But look, I don't have much love for Mike Pence myself because he bitched out over that bitched out religious freedom bill in Indiana that I did 2 different videos about, the fallout from that. It's like, you know what? He should have used that. Those Memory Pizzas people, that Memories Pizza place owned by those people who told that golden retriever girl saying like, no, we wouldn't serve she asked them, oh, would you serve a gay wedding if they asked? And the lady who runs the place, she's like, no, we'd have to say no. That's it. And they received death threats. After death threat after death threat, people parked outside of their restaurant. And Mike Pence said like, no, it's not that. It's not that. I remember it. He's like backed down almost immediately when he should have pointed to what those people were going through and saying like, look at these thugs. Look at these LGBT thugs. This is exactly what we're standing up against. Look at how these people behave. Look at how they treat any dissenting voice against them. Is this what we want? Is this what we want to capitulate to? He should have pointed to that and used it to his advantage, to society's advantage, but he didn't. Jesus 3:21, share your toys. Yeah, what's Jesus 3:16? Don't judge. Yeah, that's the one. We need to do the douche Bible. We need to write the douche Bible. I think that's a $10,000 idea. Also, bonus question, but what do you think of the entire world being able to see the future First Lady's tits with a quick Google search? She is a whore of Babylon. Yeah, she also did a photo shoot she also did like a lesbian photo shoot. Yeah, she did like a lesbian photo shoot where she's rolling around in bed with another chick naked. Which, by the way, there are rumors out there that Melania Trump is a transsexual like Michelle Obama. Now, I'm going to be killed for that, but you'll know why now. Guarantee you, Secret Service will do something about that comment. They're more likely to do something about that comment I just made than the actual threats against the president-elect. Are traps gay? CF. Okay. Why people catch me off guard sometimes with that kind of stuff. Hey CF, it hasn't been a week since Trump won, and all the pro-homo, pro-West Clinton-inserted governments are losing elections all over Europe. Moldavia elected a nationalist pro-Russian leaders this year. The Holy Russian Empire shines the brightest over us now. Putin's successor said to be Natalia Poklonskaya, the Crimean girl the whole internet went mad over. She's a candidate in his party, and now the world seems to be getting even better. Well, some of it. The ones that are, still loyal to Christ. Western influence already dwindled, and the only people liking the US now are people who simply wanted Clinton gone. Now, not even the normies like the US. Thanks, Huffington Post. It hasn't been a month yet, and Trump is already breaking the Western influence. I'll never be able to repeat myself enough. For every time I say this, I have to smile. What year this is? 2016 summers after the birth of our Lord. Now we can finally weaponize Serbian Orthodox beards, a weapon to surpass Metal Gear. That's very poetic. Oh, look, I'm glad you're happy, but you missed out. We missed out. We missed out on putting ourselves out of our misery, making way for the Holy Russian Empire. Now we're going to fight World War III with China or Iran or some shit. Some stupid shit like that. I'm not looking forward to. Also, what do you think of theocracies? In my opinion, they could work in Serbia. There's an unwritten rule that you aren't considered Serbian if you aren't Orthodox. If you're a foreigner, you'll be welcomed, but only if you're Orthodox will you be accepted. A neat way of fusing nationalism and theocratic beliefs, I think. God helps, CF. Yeah, I think you should model a theocracy after how Christ modeled his own life. He didn't manifest himself as a king who ruled from on high. All right, I mentioned this before. He chose specific people. Like, he chose very specific people to help spread his word, to help influence the culture at the grassroots level, and he did. which goes to show you that he was not mere man. He knew what he was doing. I mean, do you think it's any coincidence that Christianity had grown to such a size with the limited amount of people he chose to help spread his word? It's incredible. It's miraculous from the apostles he chose to however many members of the Catholic Church we have now worldwide. It's incredible. Listening to 114, I think okay, well, let me read the first part before you edited it. Edited. Hello, after listening to a few of your episodes and browsing your Twitter, I've become curious. Are you anti-white, or just mocking those who believe white people can do no wrong? I'm a regular on both. Well, hold on. The pro-whites seem to be, that's their religion. Their genetic circumstances are their religion. You know, what set me on this path, I haven't talked about this really, but I saw somebody, because I used to follow everybody back who followed me on Twitter. I don't do that anymore, but I saw some idiot saying like, oh, you can like Jesus, but white people are more important. I was like, I'm done with you fuckers. At that point, I was like, fuck you guys. You're not my God. You've done nothing to earn godhood. Fuck you. So yeah, I am mocking the people who believe that whites can do no wrong, and that unfortunately describes most pro-whites. So continuing with your question here. I'm a regular on both Poll and Christian, and while I do see many believing in their innate superiority, I merely wish for a traditional white society that is not under constant attack by degenerates. Well, look, if your white society is not willing to deal with the enemy within, that's what will happen. And there are many, many enemies within that white people just say, oh, that's not important, that's not really a problem, and then it becomes a very big problem, and then they'll just claim like, oh, well, that's a part of our culture. I realize that cleaning house must come first. I'm just wondering if you hate me / my race. It's my race too, buddy. Alright, I know you're listening to all these hicks with their Obama phones thinking that I'm Mexican, which just goes to show you how little they've interacted with the diversity that they claim to despise so much. But it's my race too. If you'd be willing to give a little clarity on your position, if it's merely to shock individuals into action / introspection, example, I'd greatly appreciate it. I do enjoy respect your perspective and hope to ask further questions. This has just been bugging me, as I do agree with most of what I've heard you say. Just that the seemingly snide and overly gratuitous remarks on whites as a whole has somewhat put me off. Thank you for your time. Hope I didn't come across as pretentious or autistic, not artistic, autistic. No, you didn't. That's fine. Don't worry about it. I don't make fun of people for their form. I typically yell at people if they're doing something stupid, but you're not doing anything stupid here. Look, if whites in their present manifestation, and it's both in the left and the right wing, all right, we boiled it down, they both enable the same shit. So the common denominator is their culture, their genetics. Their culture is informed by their genetics, whatever it is, they're white people. All right, if whites are going to continue on in the way that they're continuing on, with very little exception, it's ridiculous. You cannot be loyal to that which is not loyal to you. You cannot be loyal to that which is completely opposed to your values. All right, that is acting against your self-interest. That is acting against your self-interest to support people who hate your values, to hate you, the way you live your life. And unfortunately, most white people do hate what I value. They hate my values. So you know what? It's like, I'm not taking any stock in them as a group. Because I see what they are. You know, I've never had any Jews or Arabs or Muslims filling my notifications with dead kike on a stick nonsense. Never. It's only self-worshipping whites. Sodomite-worshipping whites. That's just a fact of the matter. Alright? How I feel about it is secondary. That's just a fact. Holla if you hear me, CF. Holla. I haven't managed to read that many more books this week, so nothing especially philosophical or academic this time. Well, I need to take this thing off of my head for a second. I was going to try with like a little beanie thing on my head and listening to myself through the headphones, but that's not working out too well. It's kind of cold, that's why. First, I've been reading Zippy Catholic, and one of the things he brings up a lot is that usury is the root of nearly everything wrong with the world. I was skeptical at first, but since we've seen a lot of filth that has nothing to do with loan sharking, but he gives the smoking gun here. Zippy notes that the primary argument that was used to legitimize usury, called implicit intention, was later used to legitimize all sorts of sexual sin. Let's walk you through the process now. This comes at a very interesting time. You know, I coined this term a long time ago, but I'll explain to you what it is and how it ties in with what you're talking about here after I read your comment. Implicit intention meant that if someone really believed his contract not to be a loan, then it was not usurious, even though it might be a loan in practice. This, of course, paved the way for the practical elimination of the ban on usury. If you close your eyes tight, really believe that what you are doing or what you support doing is not morally wrong, and click your heels together 3 times, then it isn't morally wrong. You are still a good person, the first Catholics to insist that wickedness can be transformed into good through a magical invocation of the primacy of conscience were not sexual revolutionaries, they were economic free marketers. And of course, you could see this logic being applied to every other form of depravity. The love of money really is the root of all evil. Well, it's the love of the self, I think, more if you're getting closer to the root. It's the love of yourself and all of your deviant actions. I mean, this is what I said. I said that you know, these homosexuals, they like to cosplay as libertarians, yet, you know, a big libertarian platform, at least when I was reading up on it, was the elimination of fiat currency. When the homosexual sexual economy is defined by anal fiat tyranny and not the egg standard by which we should live. Where else are you going to hear that? Except for here. You're not going to hear that kind of analysis anywhere. That kind of observation anywhere, but I'll stop patting myself on the back. It's bad to be boastful. Second, a historical note on that well-worn cliche, the slut-shaming double standard. I'm going to actually agree with the Tumblrists here. Men should be shamed for their promiscuity, just as women are. Well, yeah, I said that there is a one standard, and that is monogamy. And that's a standard by which we should live. There you go. But I understand what you're saying. But did you know that there was a time that we actually did that? I want you to take a look at the series of paintings titled A Rake's Progress. You probably heard about its prequel, A Harlot's Progress. Feminists bring it up all the time when talking about how misogynistic and slut-shaming our icky ancestors were, yeah, without looking at the other side of what that artist produced. But they don't mention that the same artist turned his sights on men afterwards. So what is a rake? Why have you not heard this term before? Let's let Wiki explain. A rake, short for rake hell, analogous to Hellraiser, is a historic term applied to a man who is habituated to immoral conduct, particularly womanizing. That's right. We used to shame man sluts, if I can get the order correct there. And we even had a special word for them, just as we do the female kind. In fact, we had multiple words: cad, philanderer, the aforementioned rake, and more. Some of them are still around, like womanizer, even though that's that one's lost most of its stigma. And boy, did Rake's Progress have stigma. The titular rake is a trust fund baby that spends all his inheritance fucking syphilitic whores. He ends up so indebted that he has to marry an ugly old rich woman, but still finishes the story disfigured, diseased, and crazy in an insane asylum. Well, yeah, because, you know, your sexuality is an expression of the soul, right? You look at a woman and, you know, if she looks good, you're like, wow, that inspires you to life. All right, that's all the sexuality is. It's where you direct your life-giving impulses. Do you give it where there's actually life, where there's objectively life to be made, there's a potential of life there, or are you directing it towards that which is just masturbatory, which is death? And that's what you're giving your soul to. You're giving your soul to death and not life. We used to be pretty gender neutral about this slut-shaming thing. So why did most of these words go away? Why did we stop shaming men for their sexual incontinence? Well, Zippy already explained that, so the question is, why did the sexual revolution kick in earlier for men than women to the point where Gore Vidal was openly writing pro-gay propaganda in 1948? Well, that doesn't actually take much digging. Women give birth after they have sex, you see, so it's impossible to say that whoring around was liberating with a straight face before the invention of cheap, effective female birth control. Now, the birth control pill was only invented and distributed in the late 1950s. You may be familiar with how sexual mores changed immediately afterwards. We included women in the standard fuck party literally as soon as we possibly could. Any residual stigma is simply because men had a head start because contra feminism, the sexes are biologically distinct. They rant on about the STEM lord patriarchy, but science and technology are the only reasons they can entertain the idea of sexual egalitarianism in the first place, such ingratitude. Well, here's the thing. You can't sell what the goys won't buy. White people wanted cheap and easy cummies. They wanted sexual egalitarianism. They wanted free love. They wanted syphilis. Well, that's it for today. I hope you'd enjoyed the Alphabet Suit freakouts regarding President-elect Mike Pence. I'm going to read the other two parts because it might get me in trouble. Best wishes to you as well. You know how I feel about Mike Pence. Look, it's entertaining seeing liberals freak out, but it's pointless. That's all it is. It's entertainment. And I get nothing out of it. There's no insight to be gained other than, haha, look at those stupid people. All right, if I want to see some entertainment where I could actually get something out of it, or I'd see, society's attitudes reflected in the film, how they contrast with it, if I'm watching a movie, for example, I could find that. That's entertaining that, I could actually get something out of it other than just, haha, look at that. All right, let's see how much more voice I have left to give. I feel it going a little bit. Hey, have you seen Dr. James Manning new videos about tribulation and Trump? If so, what are your thoughts? No, not in particular connecting those two things together. I do know that James David Manning has been against Trump for quite some time. He's been one of the, most convincing voices against him. And you know what? Trump is a con man. He holds no sincere beliefs. He says one thing, says another, and it's like you don't know what the guy actually believes. He's an insincere demagogue. He's a complete joke. And I can't believe that so many people have bought his snake oil, to be honest with you. It's like, you find a position, he's like, well, maybe, well, no, yes, well, this. It's like, is this guy even know who the hell he is? It's like, look, I get it, the memes are funny, triggering liberals is so funny, but that's all it is, it's just entertainment. Con man. P.S. People who want to turn boys into girls or the opposite need to kill themselves. Seriously, like maybe a self-inflicted bullet to the brain or rope or pumpkin spice bleach and etc. Well, yeah, and you mostly see this in white women. And this is what the pro-white history books will ignore, the behavior of white women. They're like, they were perfect angels who didn't do nothing and shut up. Don't say anything. White girls are magic. Shut up. Just wanted to get it out there since I saw you post on Twitter showing two sick natural aristocrats talking about how that boy that was malformed into a girl is hot. Oh yeah, it's another one of those hicks who are into have a transsexual fetish. And yeah, there are people out there who want to rape your children. And they'll disguise themselves as right-wing, Trump voting, pro-white. They want to rape your kid. They want to turn your son into they want to make your son cosplay as a girl so that they could get inspired to rape your son. There are people out there who want to do that to your kid. And they might be on your side of the political spectrum, so watch your fucking back. Honestly, the depraved things that people say on the internet make me sick. Anyway, may God's grace be with you and keep calling demons by their names and shame them. Luke 17:2. It were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he cast into the sea than that he should offend one of these little ones. Beautifully put. The effects of the forbidden fruit are slipping. We're living longer and losing our shame. What a world to die in. What a world to live in. I mean, our parents had some pretty curious timing, didn't they? Hey, Anthony Fantano, when are you going to do the fan art thread? Well, the fan art thread's already up. You're talking about the fan art video, which I will admit is slow going. It's just like, this takes so much out of me doing this. It's like you gotta recharge. And I gotta think of things to say about each one, and yeah. But it's gonna happen. It will happen. Hey, Common Filth, would you do a review for Sausage Party? I ask because the general consensus among professional reviewers and Fedora tippers, well, look, professional movie reviewers are nothing more than paid lobbyists. So the consensus among Fedora tippers about Sausage Party is what you should pay attention to. And I haven't seen the movie myself because I hate Seth Rogen. I think he's a piece of shit. Fuck you, Seth Rogen, you dumb motherfucker. Look, from what I understand, like, the whole message of Sausage Party is nothing's real. Let's just all have a big orgy. And that's it. That just goes to show you what he values. It's like a direct peering into his soul. The whole message of that movie. I don't need to watch it in order to know what it is. They praise the movie for its call to unity. Unifying around what? Cum? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no wonder why so many people liked it. Everything they praised the movie for would have gotten flack if it did not have its anti-religion message. Second question, I would like to add, what is the worst leftist propaganda entertainment drivel you have had the displeasure of viewing? Have you watched the Vice's TV network, Viceland? Check that out if you want to be in a bad mood. Hello, Shlomo Del Rio. What is your position on interdenominational and interfaith relationships? Interdenominational, fine. Interfaith, don't bring kids into that. It's just not going to work. Don't even do it in the first place. It's stupid. This question is nothing related to me personally, just something I pondered while reading chapter 7 of 1 Corinthians. Do you think the passage is strictly about permanence of marriage, or is there an implication of leniency in regards to who you marry? Thanks for your time. Doesn't say to marry non-believers. I don't see anything about that. Doesn't say to marry Muslims or Jews. I don't see anything about that. So, yeah. I think it's about marriage, married life. And in fact, that is what it is. It doesn't matter what I think. Hey, filthy boy, good work with the numerals this week. The water may turn the freaking frogs gay, but it can't keep you down. Quote, I really don't like Tinder. I'm only on it because how else am I going to meet someone? Unquote. How do you react to this? Have some more imagination, retard. How about you make actual friends who actually are like, yeah, this is a decent person. I'll introduce them to my other decent friends. Or, go to church. That might work, like a real church, not douche church. It's something I've heard from friends and acquaintances over the last few years. I think it's a very telling opinion. Let's break it down into what they're saying with this. I don't know how to meet girls in this culture. I believe meaningful relationships can start with a swipe. I refuse to consider not pursuing a relationship for even a short time. Tinder has only existed for a very short part of human existence, and yet somehow we've found each other and we've made babies with each other, and life has gone on without Tinder. Fuck you. Fuck you people who think like, oh, I can't find anybody without Tinder. Kill yourself. In fact, you should find people without Tinder. Those are the people you want in your life. Maybe it's because I'm a weirdo who places real value on relationships, but this Tinder society is really sick. If I could swipe one app from existence, or wipe one app from existence, it would be Tinder, a gross realization of modern depravity. And on a lighter note, but I woke up the other day having a dream about Common Filth for kids. How would that work out? I don't know. Thanks, bud. Keep up the good work. HuffPo article perfect for the show if you haven't seen it already. How my sexuality changed after my husband became my... What? How my sexuality changed after my husband became my wife. I thought they said that sexuality was fixed and it can't be changed. Oh, not so bored in this way now, are you, you fuck? Crush the hick, crush the urbanite, they value the same thing. And extrapolate that. The urbanite is the globalist, the hick is the nationalist, they value the same shit. Privet Normal Gunk, reaching out to you from my arguably cozy apartment, 400 kilometers away from Moscow. Wanted to thank you for the work you do. Keep spreading the word. We'll take care of the ones who didn't listen when the time comes. Hope you start making videos for Russian people someday, though. You're going through a test of faith, and you shouldn't fail it no matter what. Stay strong, CF, and God bless. Thank you for the words for encouragement. I dedicate this show to the Russian people. And I think I implied that in the Holy Russian Empire episode, didn't I? I think I did. But thank you. Hola, you magnificent gringo bastard. I have a different topic to bring today. More food for the thought than a proper insight on anything, one concerning not ourselves, but the other examples of God's creation that inhabit the planet animals. I recall you mentioning something about watching out for meat from animals raised using hormones, so I have to ask, what are your thoughts on just animal well-being in general? You displayed your interest and care for cats, sheep, and birds in the past. Yeah, and also dogs. Don't forget about the dogs. But do you think care, respect, and love should be extended for all animals? Do you think it even matters? I spoke to a very fervent Christian friend of mine who argued the thou shalt not kill commandment extended to animals because they were also his creation, with the exception, of course, for the need to eat and such. Well, we see animal sacrifice in a few verses. So we know from there that the thou shalt not kill commandment does not apply to animals. Now, I'm for not abusing animals. Sure, if you in the slaughterhouse, I'm all for killing them quickly and painlessly. But it doesn't, that thou shalt not kill commandment just doesn't apply because you see that you shall take a ram of ordination and boil its flesh in a holy place in Exodus 29, same book that in which the 10 Commandments are given. So, yeah, that's a silly thing to say that it applies to animals. I ask this because recently I've become deeply moved by stories regarding the harmonious relations between men and animals, even donating to a sanctuary in their time of need. It seems though that sometimes either the most kind-hearted or wicked of people approach helpless creatures either out of extreme compassion or the desire to hurt, respectively. Anyway, like I said, just food for thought. As always, take care and God bless. Well, some animals, their purpose on Earth is to be consumed. And you know what? Some animals on Earth are to inspire the imaginations of people. Like, there's so many varieties of bird out there that they're impossible colors. Their feathers are impossible colors that you didn't think were possible in nature, but they are. And they're magnificent creatures, and you know what? Those creatures don't exist to be eaten. They exist to inspire people to study nature, to study God's creation. And so, you know, it's up to us. It's up to us to use discretion as to what animals are used for. Got to use that intuition. Hey, quick follow-up from my question a few weeks ago. I gave a speech to my class about degeneracy in society, this time focusing on the glamorization of abortion. My classmates largely just looked at their phones, but I got through to a few. Positive examples like mothers having healthy children when the doctors said to abort stuck with them. Talking about how there's a serious problem we are all just ignoring seemed to turn them off. If there was some sort of comedic relief, perhaps they would have responded better. Well, no, not in a situation of that kind of gravity, not with a topic of that kind of weight. No, that comic relief wouldn't have been good in that situation. But I felt it would be distasteful in this case. Yeah, you're correct. Also, I find myself revisiting the older episodes of CF. It's incredible how the content is very much the same, although the format has changed. It's very consistent and enjoyable to listen to while driving, although I learned not to listen to Tumbleristas Raw on the road because I would get too angry. Thanks for your thoughts. Well, you're not supposed to listen to Tumbleristas Raw, you're supposed to watch them, because your download comes with video files. Anyway, your thoughts on Gen Z is the most conservative generation since I was born before 1945. Less white and more conservative in the UK. It is done when they are 14, though. I can't really think of a better way to test, and it's done by a marketing firm rather than some social science thing, so it might be more accurate. Might be just as the majority gets paused, a minority becomes stronger against pause. Studies also show younger people who are religious are generally more adamantly traditional/conservative and anti-modernist than the elderly or middle-aged people. I do see a little bit of a reaction, but I'm not optimistic. I'm not, we make fun of the fuck you mom and dad mindset, but it does have a time and place. After all, the Bible says there's a time and place for everything. For a purpose, it serves an end. And maybe that mindset, that rebellious mindset will be applied to when these kids have it towards their parents. It'll be like, look at you, mom and dad, you're a bunch of pieces of shit. You're in an open relationship. Mom fucks dad in the ass. Like, fuck you guys. And you know what? Good on them for doing it. But you know what? I'm just not that optimistic. I'm not that optimistic. I would like to be surprised. I would like to be pleasantly surprised by the next generation. I really would. And you know what? I've said something about that on Twitter once where, we have nowhere else left to go. The millennials and Gen X to some extent, they want the hug box. Whereas the next one, they have a chance to look at the hug box as just a place of pure decadence, a place of pure dishonesty, which is what it is. People on the right like to make fun of the left for wanting safe spaces, but that's all they want. Which is why they use stupid fucking terms like, you're counter-signaling, you're purity spiraling. The words just basically saying like, you're causing doubt, you're causing strife within our nice little hug box here. That's all it is. They don't want to hear anything negative. They don't want to hear anything that might cause them some doubt as to what the validity of what they're doing. They want the hug box just as the left wants the hug box. So I hope the next generation looks upon the hug box mindset that this generation has, because you know what? They're going to be alone. They're going to be very alone in a dangerous world. And you know what? They'll become stronger for it. That's what I think will happen. But again, I don't want to get my hopes up about it. Mom sues transgender teen. Her daughter was already dead inside. Well, that is the most absurd title to a story I've ever read. Wait, let me read the full one. Mom sues transgender teen clinic for undergoing medical procedures without consent. You know what? Maybe the next generation is looking upon this kind of stuff and thinking like, this is insane. It's just easier to have boys and girls, to have, kids under the care of their parents. And there you have it. There you have it. University of North Carolina refuses to enforce transgender bathroom law. And this is what we value. Wasn't North Carolina a battleground state? Fucking ridiculous. Yeah, I really hope that the next generation will undo all of this shit that we've done. I really hope. But we'll see. Alright, I'm all done other than the housekeeping stuff. Consumerist pagan holiday is coming up. I understand you got some obligations to give some gifts. Why not do it through my Amazon.com affiliate link below? Click on that. It'll take you to the front page. Search for your desired items, add them to your cart, check out within 24 hours of clicking on that link, and I get a percentage of whatever you buy at no extra cost to you. Also, check out commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com. All of my stuff is on there. I got Common Filth Extra, Common Filth Radio Best of Collections, Tumblr Raw Collections. Again, they come with video files. Make sure to watch them. If you don't know that already, I know you're probably not that stupid. I should give you more credit. But yeah, all that stuff is on there. You can buy my entire discography and videography on commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com for 65% off. If you have not yet checked out anything that I have to offer on there, or you haven't checked any of it out in a long time, you get caught up real quick for not a lot of money. So take advantage. All right, with all that being said, yeah, I'm done. Take care of yourselves, be good to each other. Talk to you later.
I've grown, ain't I? The skinny nigga with the fro to the slightly bigger nigga who's a killer with the flow. Went from YouTube beats and SoundCloud, nigga. The only difference now is that I found Twitter. Fuck it, it's struggle rap, man. They never see the trouble that I'm going through. The way I sing, they think I live in bubble wrap. Fuck all that, even though I'm on some poppin' shit. With my niggas as my witness, I'm a nigga who can spit. Don't believe me? Overlooking my potential, I'm that poet to a phone, that poet was to a pencil, my mental.